after primering all the smaller pieces, we went ahead and got our primary color coat on. The entire landing gear and landing gear bays are insignia white. And I have the Mr. Color brand for that specific color. So we got the color coats on, and then we did, and some of these are really, really tiny, but we got our decals. And let me get a little pointer here. There is a decal here, there, here, here, one here, one there, one there, one there, and again one here, one there, one there, and one there. Those are all landing gear doors. On the nose landing gear, you have this decal here, right up. This is the top portion of the nose wheel strut. This is the bottom portion, right? And they provide, Res Kit provides you with these rods that will hold it all together. All right, so we've got that, and it allows you to, position the nose wheel if you like. These are the wheels, front and back, or outside, inside of the wheels. Some here, pitot tubes here. A second one of these landing and taxi light sub-assemblies, which still needs a little more detail painting. I believe maybe the lens buckets themselves are not white. I gotta do some more research on that. I've had a real tough time actually finding good research photos of the landing gear bays. And we also have our fuselage halves together with our pieces installed. And again, there's decals in here, there, this one on the back wall of this gear, here, one on that accumulator or reservoir. Actually, this is probably a hydraulic reservoir. Not sure. This could be an accumulator. Seems larger than what I would be used to. The B-52s had bigger reservoirs that were similar in shape to that, but they laid, where this one is laying horizontally this way, ours were this way on the B-52, and they were in the wings. This could be an accumulator, but it seems kind of large for that purpose. But I mean, I don't know. This is old technology from around the time of the B-52, in fact. So nose landing gear, there are no decals inside the nose. Everything is on the gear doors. I will not be leaving our avionics bays open. We will put the panels on those and button them up. I have not done any of my gap filling yet. We just put this together about an hour ago. The black lines you see, okay, the glue that I used for this one, I hadn't used it before, but I like the idea of it, and it worked out just fine. But it's this Mr. Cement Special B, so black. And what I like about it is you can see the capillary action actually happening. I mean, you're holding these two halves together, and you just touch the tip of that brush, and you can see it run in that seam. And then, so you know exactly where you've got glue and where you need to hold it together more while it cures. So you can see you've still got gaps all the way around. And in the process of filling those gaps and sanding this seam, we're going to have to rescribe some panel lines. So what we'll do is we'll probably scribe those prior to beginning any sanding to make them deeper initially, so that we don't lose them all together, and then we can go back and scribe as we go to maintain those panel lines. But it's looking pretty good. Again, the main landing gear, there are rods that go in those as well for support and strength. I do need to cut some chrome film and add it to the landing gear strut. All right, this small portion right here would be your inner strut. This is your main upper and lower, so your inner strut is the chrome that goes in and out of that. There may be a little bit of exposed chrome on this one. I'll have to do more research. Like I said, I'm having a hard time finding real good photos of that. Yeah, in fact, that's got to have some, because this portion of it mainly just guides it as it's rotating forward for retraction. So the length of this one does not change. The length of this one, when it's weight off wheels, when it's fully extended, fits up into the gear bay this way, and then this trailing arm. So anyway, we're coming along. Oh, the cockpit. So very highly detailed. These are those 3D printed decals, really. Everything looks good. I am going to give a wash to the cockpit. I'm actually going to use some of this dark brown panel line accent color from Tamiya, but very, very sparingly. And I won't even use the brush that comes in this. I will use one of my smaller detail brushes and just lightly hit some areas so that we're not flooding it in there. All right, I'm going to attempt to video this from above. I'm trying to mask off my canopy, the windshield, and then the canopy itself prior to doing our primer. And I will also have to mask off all of this landing gear. That's the only drawback to me of having this 3D printed all as one piece. Normally what I would have done is painted all this stuff separately, installed the bay, the landing gear bay, and then added the landing gear afterward. But as it is, it's all molded as one piece. Well, molded, it's printed as one piece. And, you know, like I said earlier, it's got these metal rods that run through the main landing gear struts to help support the weight of the aircraft. So I'm going to have to mask all around those and hope I don't break anything in the process. The nose wheel strut, nose landing gear strut, that will not get put in until after, because it is molded separate, so I'm able to leave that one off, obviously. But yeah, it's a bit of a chore having to do that. Not my preferred way of getting it done, but we'll get it done. Right now I'm just trying to mask the windshield, and then we'll get our canopy masked and installed. I'll just put that on temporarily, probably with some Elmer's white glue, maybe something that I can remove easily. So we'll leave that all on while we do our priming, our painting, our decals. All that will be done before this mask ever comes off. Of course, we'll have to mask inside the inlet as well. I still have to assemble the wings themselves and get them attached. And of course, I'll have to glue that and sand those seams before we do the primer itself. But right now, I want to take a little bit of a break from doing the seams and whatnot. So I'm going to do this masking, and hopefully I can do this for the most part on camera. All right, so this side of the windshield is wide enough to use this 18mm tape. Now, I just did the right side here, and one thing I've noticed, the molding of this windshield glass, the demarcation lines that show the framework of it are not as pronounced and deep as I would like. It's very difficult to see where I need to cut with my knife. Now, what I do is I burnish this down using a toothpick in the hopes that those lines become more visible. And around the center of the windshield, they weren't too bad. But on this side, specifically right here in this corner, they weren't showing up real well through the tape. So what I can do, so I've got a little bit of a gap there, like right here. I've got the framework is exposed, but then just a little bit of the glass itself is still exposed. So what I can do is with my masking fluid, I'll use this and the point of a toothpick, and we'll dab it into those areas that the masking tape haven't covered like they should have. So that's what I'm working on. So burnishing this down, I can see the curvature of this center glass. I can see our line there. But again, all right, I'm starting to see, yeah, all right, I'm starting to see this rear framework in it. This is the spot that doesn't show up as well as I would prefer. And I mean, if I'm talking about what I prefer, I prefer a kit that provides canopy masks. This one does not, surprisingly, considering how good a kit it really is. If you haven't built an Edouard kit, they're fantastic. They provide canopy masks. They provide wheel masks. They are very good. Their newer decals can be a bit tricky to understand and learn because they have a carrier film that's on the outside of them that you remove afterward, and it can be tricky to remove it without damaging the underlying decal itself. On the F4F Wildcat that I built, that actually worked to my advantage because I was doing one that was kind of, had chipping paint and was worn from being on the deck of a carrier. So, if a decal flaked off on me while I was removing that carrier film, no big deal. It worked toward my final look. All right, so this is a very new, very sharp blade, and I can just barely see that line. And we're just going to follow it around with our knife blade down to that corner. I can see it coming across here. I can mostly see this one. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this is not the easiest one to do. Takes patience. Some serious patience. All right, now this bottom edge, just like on the other side, this is really difficult to see. I may have to go back and forth and just kind of compare these two sides to see that I'm where I want it to be. All right, I think I see. Maybe I should have done this prior to gluing on this windshield. That might have helped. I don't know. I know some guys managed to do it that way. In my case, I was just kind of going by the instructions, and maybe that's one of those areas where I should have deviated, because they have you install this windshield glass fairly early in the process. All right, but I think we're on. Where did I put? Okay, here's my tweezers, and I may have to go in. Yep. All right, that's what I was afraid of. I didn't quite get these corners cut. There we go. All right, that one's not cut entirely as well. Military jet just departed from Mobile Regional Airport. I'm about 3 miles southeast of Mobile Regional, and they tend to fly directly over my house when they're using that airfield. A lot of our commercial traffic is now moving to the downtown airport, Brookley Field, Mobile. So if you ever fly into Mobile, you'll probably end up downtown. I don't know why you would fly to Mobile if you don't have any particular business here, but for some reason our airport commission believes that we can attract all those people going down to the beaches. But what they don't understand is that the majority of people that show up for those beaches are flying into Pensacola because it's easier and it's closer. And the thing that makes it easier versus flying out of here is we have this I-10 tunnel right here at Mobile downtown that connects us to the eastern shore, or the other side of Mobile Bay. And you're going from basically a 4-lane interstate highway, I-10, down to 2 lanes going into that tunnel. And there's a lot of traffic. And invariably, there's either an accident or people they've never been in a tunnel before and they're afraid to go any faster. And it just backs up everything. It is such a pain in the rear end. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent there. I worked in aviation for, 20 years, more than 20 years after my time in the Air Force. So I know a little bit. I won't say I'm an expert by any means, but I probably know more than the average bear. And some of the decisions that are made by those people who are supposed to be the authority, I question those decisions quite often. But this video is not about that. Sorry. All right, so just doing a little bit more trim of the tape. And you saw me just cut a little bit bigger swath along this bottom edge, but I actually cut too far. So we will, again, I will use my masking fluid to help cover that, which, really I probably could have done this entire windshield using that masking fluid. I don't know. I personally, I kind of like doing the tape job a little better, even though this one is more difficult than it should be. But that's where we're at. All right, so the windshield's in place. Now, time to make this canopy. Ooh, that's gonna have to get polished out when we're done. I don't know if got something on the inside. All right, so let me get busy with the rest of this and we'll come back later and I'll show you where we're at.